To those of you just joining us, we're just going to wait a few minutes for more to log on. As is typical, Thursdays are not necessarily all that structured, just a conversation about news and what's going on. But I think we have a lot of things to talk about today on the election. And we'll get to that in just a second. So let's just wait for some people to log on. We're also going to talk a little bit about a conversation I posted yesterday about the future of Trump and what may happen there. It's a very interesting responses. It's amazing the emotion that still exists on both sides of this. And it's a small group on both sides. We realize that. That's pretty much driven the public narrative when you take social media and put that as a fuel to some of these very emotional groups of people on the left and the right. And so they dominate the narrative, but it's still funny to see some of the comments. And even after Election Day, where no one can impact the outcome, it's done. It's just a matter of counting at this point. Seeing that emotion still be there is interesting. But it is Thursday, November 5th. It is 2 days after Election Day, and we still do not have a president. And so it's looking more and more. I'm sure many people who are watching this podcast have been watching some of the news at the same time. Biden needs any state right now. So whether it's Nevada or Pennsylvania or North Carolina or Georgia, any one of them goes his way, and this race is over. Trump is leading in 3 of those right now. But again, this race is so drastically different from anything we've seen before because of that early vote, because so many ballots were done earlier. And so, we knew this was going to take some time. We weren't going to know this. We all knew from a political standpoint that night we were not going to get results because so many states have to count. And there is this issue where it's kind of ridiculous where every state does a different thing. But in a issue of states' rights, that's they have the right to do. So people count the same day. Some people count afterwards. They can't count till it closes. All this nonsense. We're waiting on these results. And at the same time, Trump is now tweeting that had all the legal votes been counted, he wins. If all the illegal votes are allowed in, he doesn't win. He's just setting himself up to, I don't know. It's kind of hard to understand what's happening anymore. He's a showman. He is the ultimate showman. And if we look at the numbers, they're truly spectacular. We have millions more voting, but the margin between these two is basically the same as it was 4 years ago. The Democrats, for any objective observer, accomplished almost nothing in this election. Yes, they very well may knock out Trump in razor thin margins. They may knock out Trump. So if they were looking for we're getting rid of this guy and the people are sick of him or we're tired of him, 5-6 million more people came out and voted for him. They did not get the Senate, and they lost seats in the House. And the question becomes, is this party, which has branded itself as the inclusive party, the party that you can get all races and all minorities, and we support people, and we love and care about you, we're these open arms for everybody. We're seeing those minorities, not completely, but slowly start to go the other way, did not buy into that message, did not buy into Biden. And to a certain extent, that may have been against the rallies and the violence that we saw as part of those rallies. But the message that Trump was delivering, the GOP was delivering, got through to some of those groups. And this concept that we always view these groups as one, Black men are going to vote this way, Black women this way, Hispanic men this way, simply isn't true. Trump won Florida with the Hispanic vote and likely lost Arizona because of the Hispanic vote. So when we talk about racism, we talk about pigeonholing people into these categories. At the end of the day, it doesn't work, and it's nonsense. And if we're going to be anti-racist and the true party of everybody, we have to stop treating people like their skin color or treating them like they're a marketing demographic to go after. But we're not seeing anything that the Democrats thought they were going to get. But Trump came out with a tweet and then a letter or a press release that basically said that he has won the race, and if only the legal votes come in, then he wins. If all the illegal votes are counted, he loses. And it's interesting, not all of the votes that are absentee are necessarily for Trump, because the issue isn't necessarily when they voted, as in before the election or the day of election. But when in a time period before the election did they vote? Those who voted a month early likely voted Biden. We've talked about this. Those who voted after that first debate, certainly Democrats, but even unaffiliated, likely voted Biden. But those that held on to their ballots and they got to that last 2 weeks and they saw Trump in that final debate, in the second debate, which was far better for him. If those absentees came in that last week and a half, those very well could be more for Trump, or at least more even. So as we're counting these last ballots that come in, Trump had like something like a 12,000 ballot lead in Georgia. That can be gone in a second if a group of 30,000 ballots come from an inner city. But if they were filed late in that last week and a half, they could be very helpful to Trump as well. Trump's hoping for that in Arizona. He was extremely upset that Fox called, of all the channels, Fox called that race early. And it certainly did tighten, but it does look like Biden's going to hold Arizona, which is surprising looking at past history of Arizona. So here's where we stand. Right now, Trump trails in Nevada and leads Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia. Biden is making up ground as absentee ballots come in. It looks like it may not be enough in Pennsylvania, but if he holds on and wins Nevada, the race is over. If he finds a way to make up ground in North Carolina is going to go for Trump, but if he makes up ground in Georgia, the race is over. Nevada is not going to give us their latest numbers until tomorrow at 10 o'clock. So if Georgia or Pennsylvania somehow goes for Biden, it's over tonight. If it's Nevada, we may know tomorrow at 10 o'clock. Georgia came out and said, I'm not kidding, it could take up to 10 days. By law, they have 10 days after the election to their number. So we may not have a president for quite some time. And I don't have, some of this was expected, but some of this, the shock to me is the margin. The shock to me is that Hillary won by what? What was the final margin? Let's look this up together. The final margin of vote count 2016 election. Because I think Biden has just over a 3 million vote lead. Let's see here. Trump Pence 62,000,009, Clinton 65.8. So just under 3 million votes. We're about the same thing now. Billions of dollars spent. Massive attacks, massive commercials, massive mailers. I have a million text messages and phone calls to ultimately get more voters, but the same margin. This is the system we have. It's a little crazy. It's a little nuts at the end of the day between these two people. And I ask a very simple question today. The Democrats gain nothing, even if Biden's there. Biden gets in office and has almost no power. They did not take the Senate. They lost ground in the House. In an election that was all about one man, whose total and supporters increased. So I asked on our Facebook page, should Trump run again in 4 years? We know he's not going away, right? You're going to hear tweets and nonsense and show whatever it is from Trump for the next 4 years. In fact, that's what he's probably setting up now. This argument that the election was stolen, he didn't have this election. If people had only counted the real votes, then he would have won. And so he will spend the next 4 years, if he loses, pushing that message. He's a showman. That's what he is. And he's used his showmanship to accumulate wealth and also get to the highest office in the land. So 3 years from now, if this guy is still going around the country doing rallies, and he may do it, and they may be well attended, does he run again? And if it's Biden, or by that time Harris, he may be the favorite. He may be the favorite in 4 years to run. I could also make the argument, and somebody mentioned Nikki Haley today on a different discussion. I look at I always think Romney's coming up again. I have forever believed Romney's going to be a candidate again for president. Jenny Glass, I disagree. A president can do a lot. Trump destroyed the post office and CDC by himself. Okay, I hate to, maybe, but the issues with the post office have been going on for 15 years. There's nothing, the post office was running in the red for a long time. They have a financial issue with how they report according to Congress. So the issues with the post office are generally out of context. I think that predated Trump without a question. They're required to have a certain amount of money. They show a deficit for money they owe in the future instead of currently. Congress set some rules in place there. So there's a different story with the CDC. I mean, listen, Trump has not treated science and medicine in a very reverential way. Okay, we know that, right? That there's no question. He likes to just speak from his gut. His gut is not always accurate. Science is not always accurate. So yes, the CDC, I think we have to reestablish and make science-based. But remember about science. I know we've talked about this during the election so many times. We talked about, science. I believe in science. I believe in science. Scientific method is about constantly questioning yourself. You have a conclusion, and then you attack that conclusion. You have a conclusion. And we saw this here. Science changed. Talk to nurses now, or talk to doctors now. They're not putting people on respirators. A lot of doctors that I've talked to thought respirators caused part of the problem, made it worse. So science changes, medicine changes. The healthcare industry changes as we react to information. So the scientists early on were saying things that weren't accurate. CDC was saying things that weren't accurate. They were basing it on the information they had. It was good faith. I don't believe they were being political, but that's what medicine is. So this concept that he destroyed it, medicine changes. Did he, raise questions about it? We've had conspiracy theorists way before Trump. In Connecticut, we have whole groups of people rallying at the Capitol against using, what do they call them? The word's escaping me, but medicine to avoid getting sick. I forgot what, vaccines. That's way before Trump. There is this human nature for some people to just question everything. So now we say, oh, Trump did this. Trump didn't do that. That existed before. Those groups responded to Trump. Trump didn't cause them. That's a significant misnomer. Those groups already existed. The post office issues already existed. People questioning science and medicine already existed. And that's the sad thing, because the nature of science, scientific method is about questioning what we believe. I'm a massive believer in science. I'm the kind of anti-religion guy. But I can't blame Trump for that. Did he add some fuel to that? Sure. But getting Biden in there doesn't solve the problem. The way people question science isn't going to be solved by putting Biden in there. The problem that we have is Mitch McConnell going to be open to doing anything? I have no idea. Now today, to those of you who may not know who Jay Powell is the head of the Fed. And he's probably one of the best speakers and most logical statements I've ever seen. He's very nonpartisan. He just looks at things in the financial area, and he called again for a stimulus package. All of Wall Street, every financial person on the planet is calling for a stimulus package. The question is going to be, does Mitch McConnell not allow something more than $500 million to pass? That $500 billion to pass when the Democrats want a 2.2, and I'm guessing they're going to push for more. So, and does that package come in this period before Biden gets in? Does Trump agree to it? Or does Trump just kind of go crazy? Now, Mulvaney, his chief of staff, or one of his staffers, came out today and said, there's no question you're going to have a very peaceful transfer of power. Let's hope that's the case. That's probably the most American thing there is the peaceful transfer of power. And if we don't have that, that's a sad day in America. You're going to have Trump. Trump's going to be Trump. He's going to question the results forever. He's going to go on tour once he's out of office, question the results. He's going to have fans of adoring, people, crying over him. That's what he is. He's a showman. Go ahead. And he'll be brought up again. He's run multiple times. 3-4 years from you'll see his name again. And the Democrats have to realize they do not have a hold of this country. They do not have a hold of the minorities they thought they had. It's going in the other direction. The message isn't resonating. The arms open, we're hugging, lovey-dovey, we're all in this together isn't resonating. What people are voting on are their wallets. They're voting on jobs. Clinton said this, it's the economy, stupid. And instead, we have Democrats saying everything but the economy. I'm seeing memes. I stand for love and caring about people. That's great. It's about putting food on the table. That's what they're voting for. Show me an ability to make sure there's jobs. Show me the ability to make sure people can put food on the table, not free stuff. Because those free stuff, people don't vote. I hate to break it to you. The people getting a lot of aid don't vote. The people working do. And until the Democratic Party starts understanding that, they're going to be lost. No question about it. All right, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about local, because the Jenny, the president had rallies at Stanford calculated killed 700 people. Jenny, I don't disagree with that. But what happened in all of these Black Lives Matter rallies? Did somebody study those? Did somebody study thousands of people marching through the street, many without masks? Did anybody study those? The people who were smashing windows may not have been a Black Lives rally. I'm not equating the two, but they used those rallies to get out there. Were they using masks? Did Stanford study those too? So let's be fair here. You know, what Donald Trump did, was it right? No, but all those people chose to show up too. So we can, you know, there's multiple different ways to look at this coronavirus. Can it shut down the economy? I don't know. Our governor, a Democrat, isn't shutting down Connecticut. We reached 6.1% positive rate, not shutting down the state. We're yelling about Trump not shutting down the country and not acting faster. But I don't see Lamont doing it either, because it's not that cut and dry. If you shut down the economy the way Biden was yelling at Trump he should have done, he should have acted faster, more people die. Not from corona, they die from suicide, they die from depression, not having health insurance after losing their jobs. Do I want to solve that problem? Yes, I'm for essentially socialized medicine. I'm for Medicare for all. No, Jenny, the president isn't somebody who you relate to. There are millions of people in this country who related well to the president. He responded to those people. This is where the Democrats are losing. They're not understanding this. They're winning in states where they have huge majorities. Where it's split, they're not, because the message isn't resonating. We get sick. It happens. We have the flu. People die from the flu. What if there's not a vaccine in 3 months for the coronavirus? What if there's not a vaccine in 6 months? What if there's not a vaccine in a year? What happens? We had experts that thought we'd have a vaccine by now. We're not going to have it. We're going to go through the winter. We're going to go through the summer. How long are we not going to have people going to work? How long are we not going to have school sports? Do you know the pressure the schools are under when there's no school sports and no school from parents who can't go to work? Now, this question of, oh my God, we should shut the country down. We should be the example. Yeah, okay, he should have been. Wearing a mask is easy enough. He should have done it. The massive difference wasn't wearing a mask, but he should have done it. I agree with that. But at the end of the day, he got 5 to 6 million more votes. That message isn't resonating with people. If you're a political party looking to make changes, you have to have some sort of self-reflection now. You have to stop and ask, how come our message isn't getting through to people? Does the message seem sincere? We're all one. We're all in this together. That's great. You know what people want to do? Put food on the table. They want to go to work. That's what they want to do. And now you're just telling a bunch of residents, restaurants here in Branford, in Connecticut, who are struggling. I mean, struggling. They have to close at 9:30. And I get that. It makes sense. After 9:30, what happens? People start drinking. They start gathering. No one's aware of all this stuff. Jenny, he didn't get more votes than Biden. That's correct. So they just ran a campaign for basically 4 years against this guy, and he got 6 million more votes. There isn't a Democrat on the planet who thought that was going to happen. There is no Democrat with a brain as looking at the results of this election saying, we really won, we got it. You know, we really made a statement here. There's no statement was made. Period. Now, is Trump irresponsible? Yeah. Is he ridiculous on Twitter? Uh-huh. Promising vaccines that he has no ability to promise? Yeah, that's stupid. Is he an idiot? Absolutely, he's an idiot. No question. But the Democratic message isn't resonating either. And let's be honest here. You can say Biden got more. A paper bag could have run in this election against Trump. This was a referendum on Trump. And it looks like he'll lose, but he will lose by the tiniest of margins. I don't know what the Electoral College number will be at the end of the day. It could be 270, 268, which would be unbelievable. That's actually possible. At the end of the day, more people voted for him. There was no public repudiation of Trump. There was no public repudiation of the GOP. Mitch McConnell won again. They control it. The Democrats lost seats in the House. So for whatever message it is, if you're looking to win in the future, that message wasn't it. And I'm going to go a step further. We heard for 3 years about immigration. Oh, it's awful. And he's ripping apart families and it's terrible. And Mexicans are going to be deported and people are going to be taken, whatever it was. I didn't hear Biden mention immigration once in this election. I didn't hear it once. They ran from that. That's a losing message, especially sometimes against legal immigrants, because they came legally. They're the ones who don't want illegal immigrants. I didn't hear anybody talk about for the last 2 years Trump's wall. I didn't hear anybody talk about it. So if you're looking at these election results and coming to the conclusion that the Democratic message was successful, it wasn't. That's just based on the numbers. Biden will win by the same margin that Hillary won, just slightly above. And by will be like a couple thousand votes in a few states. He may pull out Georgia. He may pull. It looks like he's not going to pull out Pennsylvania. Trump will get Pennsylvania. He'll probably get Georgia. And then Nevada will be the difference for Biden. It looks like we'll know that tomorrow morning. Biden just spoke at a press conference and didn't really say much. And the stock market, oddly enough, is going crazy this week. Why? Here's why. With Biden in office, a stimulus package likelihood goes up. And with the Republicans owning the Senate, the chances of tax increases goes down. The market is good. If you have a 401k, you made 20% in your money this week. It's just crazy. It's nuts. And by the way, it's not over. Trump could still pull this out. I don't think so, but he could pull this out. But there should be a lot of soul searching on the Democratic side. There should be a lot of what do we have to do better? Start by putting up somebody who's inspirational and actually, Biden is not that guy. Hillary was not that person. Hillary unbelievably qualified, no question. Wasn't that person. Find a new name. Find a fresh name. Somebody you haven't run 3 times before and lost. You have to start rethinking that. I don't think Biden seeks re-election at his age. Will be 82 running for re-election, and he already looks like, not right in the head. I don't want to say that in a negative. I don't want to say that way. I shouldn't have said that. He looks old. But it's a day for self-reflection for Democrats. And you're going to celebrate, hopefully tomorrow morning, this is over. There's been no rioting. There's been no craziness. There's nothing absurd. Tomorrow morning, if Nevada comes out, Biden won it, race is over. You're done. Trump will be Trump. He will always be Trump. I have no respect for the way he behaves. I'm not defending that in any way, shape, or form. As I made clear, I voted for Biden. I've said it here many times. And I made clear why I'm voting for Biden on policy. I kind of ignored the crap, but the crap's still there. And he's going to be there forever. He's not going away. He was a pain in the ass to Obama with the whole birther nonsense. He'll be a pain in the ass to Biden. That's not going away. The Democrats have to start asking themselves, why are we losing ground with some minorities? What's so wrong with what you just said about, I don't want to make it sound like, I know there are people who don't like Biden that say things like he's delusional or not, whatever. not all there being because of his age. I'm not implying that. He just looks physically older. You know, he's not that much older than Trump, but Trump looks 20 years younger than him when they're on the stage. I have a personal thing where I don't like putting down the way people look. You know, I hate that. So, but when a presidential candidate is there, he looks tired. He doesn't have the energy that you saw from certainly Obama, but from Trump. Doesn't have it. Does he run again in 4 years? I mean, Jenny, I'm commenting to somebody commenting on the site. Do you think Biden runs again in 4 years if he wins? Does the average person think you're just parroting GOP talking points? What are the GOP talking points? What are they? Biden's about to win. I don't know what the GOP talking points are. Do you think Biden looks young? Do you think anything in this election was about Biden? I didn't see anybody lined up to say, I can't wait for Biden. I saw everybody lined up to say, I can't wait to get rid of Trump. I didn't see this election had nothing to do with Joe Biden. Anybody could have been in that seat. I could have been the Democratic nominee. The results would have been similar. Nobody was excited to go vote for Joe Biden. This was the Donald Trump election. Period. That's it. Either you bought into Donald Trump or you didn't. That's it. And let's be honest, anything Biden may have said or promised, he's not going to be able to do. He can undo some things by executive order, but he's not going to be able to get anything through the Senate. It's not going to happen. Mitch McConnell, for lack of a better word, is a dick. That's what he is. He'll sit there and do nothing. He did it to Obama. He'll do nothing for 4 years, or 2 years at least. That's what he'll do for political gain. That's the game we play now. At the end of the day, hopefully we have an answer tomorrow morning. Georgia can take up to 10 days. We'll see. But hopefully tomorrow morning, Nevada maybe ends this nightmare and it's over and Biden wins and we call it a day. If Trump wins, if some miracle happens and Trump wins, where he makes up Nevada, maybe Arizona, but I'm guessing Nevada, and he holds on to the other three, wow. Be one hell of a weekend. Interesting. But you're in the same spot. Dems have the House, Republicans have the Senate, then Trump's in there. So still nothing gets done. Do we get a stimulus package? Do we get an infrastructure bill? Do we get some sort of solution on healthcare? I don't know. Maybe nothing. All right, before we go, I just want to talk quickly about tonight. Merrick Grandy, isn't it sad that McConnell's like that? What about the country he's supposed to be serving? He likes being called the Grim Reaper House. It's true. Listen, they're playing politics. Are we pretending for a second Nancy Pelosi couldn't come to some agreement? The Democrats did this too. The Democrats put in a bunch of crap in that stimulus bill that should not have been there. They could have passed something at 1.8. If they had come down to, and by the way, there were Democrats in the House saying and putting pressure on Pelosi to do so. They came out publicly and said, pass that stimulus package. So they're both playing politics. They're both playing politics. Both sides. This idea that one side is so much better, morally or ethically better than the other, is not true. And when people were voting for Trump, what they were really voting for was to say, for lack of a better phrase, fuck this system. They were basically saying, I'm tired of this shit. I don't want to vote for the Jeb Bushes of the world, where everything is determined in a room by consultants. And my suit's always perfect, and I'm a perfect candidate. Jeb Bush was the guy going into that election 4 years ago. He was it. The both sides stuff isn't a cover. Pelosi could have passed. Jenny Glass just said the both sides stuff is a cover for Trump and the GOP. Pelosi could have passed a bill at $1.8 trillion. You could have more unemployment now with Trump support and Pelosi. I don't know if you'd had Mitch McConnell. I have no idea. You could have had that done. Pelosi plays the game too. Dems play the game too. And if you don't think so, Jenny, a year ago, we heard immigration and the wall and how evil and nasty he is. That completely changed. We don't even bring those things up. Why? Because in a room with consultants, they decided what would work and what wasn't. It has nothing to do with ethics, nothing to do with morals. That's what they decided. Now, there's things I agree with the Democrats on. There's things I agree with the Republicans on. I'm with the Dems on healthcare. I think the biggest economic boost you could possibly give to the country is essentially socialized Medicare for all. Because when you don't have to worry about where you're getting your healthcare from, you can take a better job. You can start a business. You can take a risk. It's huge. It's a massive undertaking. They're right on that from an economic standpoint and from a human standpoint. But the Dems want to push everything as a human thing, right? Well, this is about caring for people and loving people, and we're all under one umbrella, and then we're all together. But the people care about jobs. And this isn't me. This is Bill Clinton who said it. A Democrat who said it. That's not cover for Trump and the GOP. A Democrat president said it's the economy, stupid. And the last thing you're hearing from Democrats is the economy. I don't see them talking about the China trade war. I don't see them talking about trade in general. I see the lovey-dovey crap. I don't see the real stuff. And so when those minorities who fought to get over here are growing, or when those people are working like crazy, thinking to themselves, I want jobs, I want job security, I want to make sure I have more clients, they're saying, you know what, I want to vote based on the economy, the same way Bill Clinton said it. Everything you disagree with is suddenly talking points for the GOP, except it came from Democrats. Period. You can't make a statement that both sides are bad. Both sides are crazy. You know who's behind both political parties? People who have careers they want to advance. That's who's behind both political parties. Period. That's what it is. The job's to win races. So they will say and do whatever they have to do to win a race. Because when they win a race, they get a job in that administration. That's how this works. And then they're up for re-election. What happens? They will say or do anything they have to do to win that race. Why? Because they get a job in that administration. And if they don't get a job in that administration, they're going to become a consultant on K Street in Washington for $300,000 a year. That's the people running the party. Rich people who are trying to advance their careers and will say or do anything to do it. These aren't humanitarians. Stop thinking your party's a humanitarian. I'm a registered Democrat. I'm far more liberal than you think I am. Social issues, everybody should get married, you should have sex with anybody you want, abortion should be legal everywhere, all that stuff, no problem. You know who else agrees with me? Most of the country on that stuff. When it comes to economics, Democrats are losing it. They're not even talking about it. And it was Bill Clinton who told you to. It was Bill Clinton who told you it's the economy. They're not even talking about it. And you're losing people because of it. Trump bought out all these people, for and against him. Biden will have a 4-year term unless the Democrats figure that out. Ed Remillard, you asked, how do I pay for that? I pay for that with taxes. Listen, I would rather have taxes go to a centralized healthcare provider, whether it's the government or a nonprofit agency we set up, and that everybody have access to healthcare. The exact same way everybody has to have insurance to drive a car. It's the same thing. Everybody's going to use insurance. At some point in your life, you're going to use insurance. And quite frankly, even if you pay, look, I pay almost $600 myself. I'm self-employed, $600 a month for insurance with a $6,000 deductible, which means before I get coverage, I'm out 12 grand a year. So many of the people that I know who own businesses are self-employed, are married to people in unions. Why? They have healthcare. So they can go start a business. They could take a risk. They can leave one job and go to another and take something else that they really want to truly do, because they are covered that way. They're covered by healthcare because they're married to somebody else that has healthcare. So what happens if we just say, wait a minute, let's find a way, however expensive, to provide healthcare for everyone in the country, knowing they're all going to need it. By the way, there's other countries that have healthcare for everybody. It's not the end of us. Healthcare will not be the end of us. Letting people die is not going to be the end of us. And I don't want to make the overly emotional argument. I'm not that way. But it's not going to be the end of us. That's crazy. But imagine what it does to an economy. Imagine what it does to people who want to take a risk and start a business, who don't have to worry about the healthcare benefits. How many people have kept their jobs and not left their jobs that they didn't like because that company offered healthcare? How many people would start up a business, take a risk? And taking a risk is what moves capitalism. Period. You want to boost the economy? Provide everybody healthcare. Start telling them, start that store, start that small business, take that risk. Because we know if you break your leg out your door or you happen to get a God forbid, a cancer diagnosis, you're covered. Instead, you work in an office in a job you hate and won't take that risk because you need that health care. And if you think that's foolish, don't watch this. Guys, we're just looking at actual numbers here. You don't think more people would take risks and start businesses and take chances and a boost to the economy if they didn't have to worry about where healthcare was coming from? Are you kidding? Think about that for a second. Have you ever in your own life kept a job you didn't want? Stop short of starting a business. Stop short of taking a risk. Have you ever? Because you needed healthcare. In every family, there's somebody. And we will make one show about healthcare. We will. Somehow, amazingly, the auto industry is doing okay. SUVs are selling like crazy, despite the fact that people are required to have car insurance. Huh, that's amazing. You mean everybody's forced to have insurance, yet our economy is still doing okay? Huh, that's spectacular. Maybe that same concept can work with healthcare. What the hell? Why is this so hard? How you do it is more difficult, but the end result should be the same. You want to boom the economy? Provide people healthcare. I have no idea how I got so far off on talking on that, but in any event, that's it for today, guys. It is gorgeous outside. Get out for the next hour or two before it gets too dark. Hopefully you get out and support some of the restaurants. I've talked to a lot of restaurant owners that are really, really afraid about this new 9:30 curfew thing. Really try to get takeout, support our local restaurants. They're struggling. I'm telling you, knowing some of their internal numbers, they're hurting. If you're in Brantford, if you can spend locally, if you have the money, if you have the means, eat out if you can, take out, go there, whatever. Help our local businesses. They're going to go through a rough time these next few months. Guys, have a great night. Have a great weekend. Hopefully we have some results tomorrow or over the weekend on the presidential race. We'll be back Monday at 4 o'clock. I will talk to you then. Have a great night.